They're not looking for a handout. They're looking for an opportunity. They want to work.
As immigrants and refugees adjust to a new life here, some are receiving support from a surprising source.
Vancouver sends 2 small boats, south down the Sound.
It's the region's dominant body of water. But how much do you really know about Puget Sound?
It still allows us to be a community again.
A city program encourages people to step it up as COVID restrictions ease. These stories and more next on CityStream. Hello, I'm Dennis Bounds, and welcome to CityStream from Bloodworks Northwest. This organization has served a crucial role for 70 years, distributing life-saving blood products to more than 90 hospitals across the Northwest. It collects about 900 units of blood each day, but since the pandemic, donations have dropped off significantly. Pop-up locations like this one at the Paramount Theater last year have helped, but it's simply not enough. Much more on the critical need to replenish the blood supply just ahead. But first, Seattle's refugee and immigrant community is celebrating a new partnership in North Seattle. The Refugee Women's Alliance, known as ReWA, is teaming up with Seattle's new pro hockey team, the Seattle Kraken. Brian Callanan has a story.
It's the field trip of a lifetime. One that ties an old tradition to a new future.
But this is the real stuff. This is the fun stuff with the kids.
Deborah Juarez is a city council member and cheerleader. Welcoming kids from the Refugee Women's Alliance, or ReWA, on a visit to the new Seattle Kraken Iceplex in District 5.
We work closely with ReWA, and we had talked about bringing kids here and also introducing this whole new generation to getting on the ice.
Oh, good fall, good fall.
And it's finally happening.
For the Kraken, these weekly skating sessions represent a step towards greater inclusivity in sports like hockey or figure skating.
Marching, marching, marching.
But for ReWA, this experience is just one part of an important journey.
Hello, and how are you?
ReWA's Early Learning Center in Lake City is where it all starts.
We shout, hooray!
The 225 students in ReWA's 3 learning centers and their teachers speak languages ranging from Spanish
Donde en California?
to Amharic to English.
你想去哪里呀?
And parents love to hear it.
I'm so happy to have my son here in this school.
Patricia Deris immigrated to the U.S. from El Salvador in 2011. Her son Enzo is 4 and looks destined for greatness on the ice.
All right, good job.
But learning to skate is far from the only skill ReWA is giving him and his family.
Should we count?
Many children take their lessons home and help their parents learn English.
He sometimes to go home and he say, "Oh, Mom, I learned this," and I say, "What is that?" And he explained. He tried to explain, and I learn a lot for him, a lot.
It turns out we all could learn a lot from ReWA, especially from site manager Ime Tai.
Oh, she's my friend, Ella.
Ime immigrated to the U.S. from Taiwan at the age of 32 and speaks 3 languages herself. All told, 65 languages and dialects are spoken in ReWA's early learning centers.
Everyone has a 2 or 3 or 4 language. Why? Because it's our society and it's our community in Seattle.
Census figures show nearly 1 out of 5 Seattle residents was not born in the United States. And as Ime sees it, it's her job to speak her students' languages and make them feel welcome in their new country.
We help the young kid feel confident and feel I belong to this society and community in this country because we hear our mother language in school.
And when the children make that connection, it helps entire families connect to the support they need, from pandemic relief funds to citizenship assistance, housing, and more.
We are the bridge between the community resource to the parent. Your language different, but we listen. We work together.
But you got to keep the glasses on so we can see what you see.
ReWA is also keeping an eye on what kids need outside the classroom, too.
Circle. House.
Through a partnership with nursing students from the University of Washington, ReWA offers free wraparound services like health screening, to help families identify any issues their children might have before they grow too big to handle.
37 inches. Our major focus is to ensure that all of our children, our families, refugees, immigrants, low-income families, have the tools, the necessary resources to be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant.
That's Susan Lee, Operations Director for ReWA's Early Learning Centers.
Do you like this book?
She wants all of us to learn about the thousands of families ReWA supports every year from 70-plus countries and how they're helping our country, too.
They're not looking for a handout. They're looking for an opportunity. They want to work. They want to contribute to society. And this is the ReWA effect.
And ReWA has expanded to help not only immigrant and refugee families, but thousands of low-income residents of King County.
Blue!
The Lake City Child Care is the lower floor of the Tony Lee Building, a 70-unit structure built by the Low-Income Housing Institute.
And we have parents that can just easily drop down their children in our school while they go to work. So when there is investment in early learning, you're investing in the whole family. You're investing in the well-being of our kids.
What's in this picture?
Jessica Davis is a single mom who lives at the Tony Lee with her daughter Ella.
I really like that it brings different cultures together.
Davis says ReWA's work towards inclusivity is an inspiration as we try to build back better from the COVID pandemic.
A lot of times I feel kind of excluded as a lower income person living in Seattle and also being a single parent. And so I do feel a sense of community in that way, that I'm welcome.
Providing a sense of welcome. The mission continues at ReWA. It's a lesson of understanding how each of us has had to get back up when we've fallen down, and how a community needs to be there to help.
They open the door for everybody, no matter what is the country, no matter what is the color.
They don't feel alone, and because we can become a good family here.
It's about making sure all of our children that are people of color, low-income families, have the same resources as anybody in our community.
Bye, we'll see you next week.
Good job, guys.
The Kraken are hosting students from ReWA each week at the North Seattle Iceplex. If you'd like to get your child on the ice, go to seattlekrakenhockey.com. Next on CityStream, it's the massive body of water that connects the region. But how much do you really know about Puget Sound? Puget Sound is the distinctive body of water that unites us all here in Western Washington, whether as a maritime highway or a scenic spot to sail or fish. Thousands of years of history of this regional treasure are explored in a new book by local author David B. Williams. Felix Bonnell has more.
They sailed down and actually anchored just off of this point right here. Restoration Point is where they are. They're in May 1792. They set up their ship there. Vancouver sends two small boats, oar boats, south down the Sound.
Chances are you already know that Puget Sound was named by British explorer George Vancouver. And you probably already know who he named it for.
And the person who is in charge is one of his lieutenants, Peter Puget. So Puget and 10 men, they go, they explore down there, they come back to the boat, and Vancouver writes in his journal, to honor his exertions, I name this place Puget's Sound.
But there's so much more to know about Puget Sound. Beneath the surface,
the average depth of the Sound is about 200 feet. The deepest spot's just north, it's about 900 feet. So we're an incredibly deep body of water.
And above the surface too.
So I just love being on the water. There's just so many little nooks and crannies that I've visited that I just felt it's a special place.
David B. Williams, known for his earlier book about Seattle regrades called Too High and Too Steep, is author of a new volume about the history of Puget Sound called Home Waters. Williams says that geologically speaking, Puget Sound is young. Only about 16,000 years have passed since it was carved by massive glaciers.
The ice also acts as a big rake, scraping the land into a series of parallel north-south trending ridges and valleys. So if you go through Seattle, for example, if you go east-west, you're going up and down, north-south, relatively easy.
Before Seattle commuters struggled with those hills or serenely traveled over the salt water, Puget Sound's depth meant diversity of sea life, birds, and mammals.
This is a very deep place. So deep canyons and lots of wildlife down there. And that's part of the story of the Sound, is the amazing array of wildlife. People have been here for 13,000 years, which is amazing to think. Just after the end of the Ice Age, within 2,000, 3,000 years of the ice moving out, the land has been scraped barren by the ice. And so it retreats back, and people come in very soon afterwards. A completely different looking landscape than what we have right now.
People like the Denny Party, who founded what became Seattle, and similar groups of non-native settlers in other communities, depended on Puget Sound as a water link to each other and to the rest of the world. But that was nothing new.
It's not just water, it's a way of life, it's an existence.
Indigenous author and educator Philip Red Eagle has helped organize journeys in traditional canoes, which gives its own water-level perspective on Puget Sound.
We learned a lot when we got into the canoes. You get a closer look at everything. You know, when you're zipping by in a powerboat, you don't get that. When you're paddling it makes a big difference, you know, because you're paddling through, you know, seal poop and, you know, everything that, you know, the plastic and everything.
Along with canoes, Indigenous people also had names for geographic features for thousands of years. Nowadays, many of Vancouver's names are being reconsidered. Puget Sound was previously known as Woolwich. Should that name return?
Well, we're working on it. Well, we call it Sailor Sea now. We don't call it Puget Sound. And we were aware that things were randomly named, you know, so that they could fit their perceptions into it.
It turns out that even the word sound has a certain outsider connotation.
It's sort of a Norwegian and English derivation that basically means a body of water, and it doesn't actually have an official definition like a bay or an inlet, and it seems to be a term that was really preferred by British explorers like Vancouver, like James Cook.
And maybe what it's called is not as important as how we take care of it. European settlers treated Puget Sound as a highway and a source for food, as Indigenous people had for millennia. But settlers also used it as a dumping ground for runoff and other waste.
If you've been living here for 6,000 years, you have to, at some point in that 6,000 years, you have to realize that there has to be a reciprocal relationship going on. Otherwise, it's going to destroy.
I would argue, and I'm not alone, is that the Sound's in better shape now than it's been in decades. A lot of regulations have been passed that limit the dumping of toxins. We're not harvesting animals the way we used to. So the Sound is actually in better shape than it's been. And I think, to me, one of the goals of the book was to come away with a sense of hope.
HomeWater's author David B. Williams will be giving a number of talks this fall and winter to celebrate the release of his book. You can find out more by going to geologywriter.com. We'll be right back. And welcome back to CityStream from Bloodworks Northwest. Earlier this year, Seattle City Council member Teresa Mosqueda overcame her fear of needles and gave blood for the very first time.
Obviously a little scared of needles. Haven't really looked at my blood being drawn at the doctor's office ever. And so let's step out of our comfort zone, right? Let's make sure that more folks have access to life-saving blood supply that they need.
Mosqueda overcame her fear to both draw attention to the severe blood shortage and also to support her close friend, Molly Firth. Molly nearly died after giving birth when she suffered a postpartum hemorrhage. She needed 16 units of blood to survive.
Molly's baby is 5 years old now, and so it's taken me 5 years to give blood. And it won't take me 5 more, Molly. I'll make sure to do this with you on a regular basis.
Joining us now is Juan Cotto, who's the Director of Governmental Affairs for Bloodworks Northwest. Thanks for being with us.
Dennis, thank you very much for being here.
We know there is a critical need for blood in the area, but how's the pandemic actually affected your operations?
The pandemic has affected our operations. Like a lot of companies you're seeing in the area, we are still looking for people to fill our most critical role, which is the blood collection specialist or the phlebotomist position. So because of that, we've had to alter some of the hours at our donor centers, which really puts a little bit of a premium on us trying to figure out how we can get people in and make sure that we can keep all the appointments. So the staffing has certainly been an issue. It's led a little bit to some of the challenges that we face, but certainly the community has stepped up and we're seeing folks continue to support us, and that's what we are working to do to make sure that we can get the services to provide the community the opportunity to donate blood.
Bloodworks Northwest serves over 90 hospitals in the region, but what happens when the blood supply reaches a critically low level? Who's affected?
Well, from a business perspective, we are affected a little bit in the fact that we become an organization that we've got to go out and find blood to service our hospital donors and ultimately our patients. The hospitals themselves, when we get to certain levels, they have to make determinations on who they can treat at the time. So that's why it makes it just a real critical opportunity for us to get blood and to have it for the patients. So when there are situations that occur, we can go ahead and service those situations.
You're getting blood at the hospitals, but it's a pretty difficult task at times.
At times it can be, just simply because of the situations that we face. But the critical area is making sure that we have the blood necessary at the time we need it so we can service the situation.
You have a campaign going, Music's in Our Blood. Please explain that.
We're really excited about the campaign, and obviously one of the things we're looking at doing is identifying different demographics, and certainly it's a little bit hipper and trendier audience that we're trying to do, but the Music in Our campaign has, the Music in Our Blood campaign has allowed us to move into a younger demographic, and at the same time it's been a lot of fun, and you've seen a lot of color and a lot of excitement around it, and we have a big promotion coming up with Macklemore, which would be really exciting. So if people go ahead and make a blood donation, they'll be entered into a contest where the person selected will potentially go on a trip to see Macklemore. So we're really excited about how this campaign's worked out.
Very good. Where's the trip?
The trip is to Mexico. It's a big concert that Macklemore is doing down there, and just to be able to have a local celebrity highlight the blood donation, the importance of blood donation is really, really good for us.
Your work, though, comes down to the fact that I'm sure you can give us a story or two about the services that you provide have been life-saving services for some people.
There have been a number of stories, and I think that we probably as a community have all been connected to some of those stories of people who have received blood or platelets or different blood components and the impact that that's had in their lives. So that's one of the real exciting things about working with the mission of Bloodworks Northwest. You see the impact that it has on a daily basis.
Okay, say I want to donate blood. First step I need to take?
You can call into the donor centers, or you can go on our website at www.bloodworksnorthwest.org and go ahead and make an appointment right there. Please be patient, because in certain donor centers, simply because of the staffing, you may have to wait a few weeks out, but that's okay. Get yourself on the list. Other times you're going to be able to find slots that are open and donate. And do another thing. When you finish your donation, make another appointment. Get in the habit of making multiple donations.
Okay. How long does it take? And I'm asking for a friend. Is it painful?
It is. Let's just put it this way. Number one, it takes about 45 minutes. Depending upon your situation that day. If you're feeling good and you're healthy and you come in and you go through the proper paperwork and everything, we can probably get you out here in 45 minutes to an hour. The actual blood donation itself, for whole blood, it takes about 20 minutes. And the needle goes in, and Dennis, it is painless.
You promise?
I promise.
Okay. Juan Cotto, who's the Governmental Affairs Director for Bloodworks Northwest, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I appreciate your time today.
Just ahead, a city program kicks into gear, encouraging use of Seattle parks. That's next on CityStream. Once COVID restrictions eased, Seattle parks became more accessible, but some people still needed a nudge to get outside. As incentive, Seattle Parks and Recreation provided 38 grants to various organizations. Each group designed activities within parks that cater to underserved communities. As producer Ian DeVere shows us, the Welcome Back Seattle grants got people out and active.
If you know the words, you can sing along as well, because I know people on this side do. Yo. 'Cause I don't need money, I don't need fame, I just need something that'll get me through this.
We are in Jefferson Park, and today we were attending one of our concerts that's been funded by the Welcome Back Seattle grant.
The Welcome Back Seattle grants were for all of the city to come back and do some healing and to do some work in the communities that really are underserved.
We gave out a total of 38 grants, so some will be happening later in the summer and fall, and some have started already.
We've got people that are feeding homeless. We've got people that are teaching young people how to be entrepreneurs. We've got people that are of all different races, creeds, and colors doing wonderful work in the communities.
I would say 90% of our members are senior citizens, so people over 50. This year we have 15 exercise sessions and 5 in person and 10 on Zoom. Majority of our members also really have low income, so by having food, that we provide food during lunch hour for them, so that keep our program going. It's a big deal for us. I would say more or less during the pandemic, it's a survivor for some of our members, some of our senior who doesn't go out at all in the last 2 years. This draw them out. And the program also provide, we can provide PPE. So it's a matter of surviving for our senior citizens to be able to come out and socialize with their friends.
These grants are important because we haven't been able to enjoy the things that we got so accustomed to.
We're essentially recreating our open practice sessions that we used to have at the Massive Monkey Studio, the Beacon. And with that closing down, there was just nothing else for us to do, nowhere else for us to go. It just was able to provide funding for us to be able to staff it with seasoned and experienced dancers to be able to facilitate the program.
Having an actual space for people to come together to be able to dance again, regardless of whatever their house life is, I think it's important.
It's open to all skill levels of dance. As long as they're willing to try and do something fun and just hang out with some good people, that's what we're here for.
COVID took a lot from us, and this is a way for us to give back. It still allows us to be a community again.
I see the Welcome Back Seattle grant as like Seattle Parks and Recreation's way of activating community parks in a really relevant way to that neighborhood.
We're doing equity parks, which are parks that are not as popular or that are underused in our spaces.
We're at Judkins Park, and Griot Girls tells stories and allows others to tell their stories through dance, theater, drum, music, chant, and song. I'm able to serve more people with the grant, and I think it builds relationships between artists and the community. So it allows us to be here and to serve.
We are having lots of violence, lots of death and destruction going on in our world right now. And to be able to have things that are family oriented, that are safe, that are accessible to people is very important.
We have a number of fitness programs that are running right now.
We are a nonprofit health and fitness organization. We started in February 2020, so right before Corona hit, and then we had to go virtual. And then when it was okay to come outside and do group fitness in person again, we started going back in person, first in Tacoma, but then when we got the grant from Seattle, the Welcome Back grant, we then started going to Seattle parks.
Part of our mission and vision is to change the culture of fitness, health, and wellness within the BIPOC community.
So these are communities that don't have the resources that our counterparts, white counterparts, have. So what some people may take for granted because they already have it handed to them, we don't have at all. So what it means is giving them the resources that they should already have. So it's filling in those huge gaps that we have in our community and fulfilling it. So it means a lot. Words can't even express it. Yeah.
We don't give these grants to large organizations or government agencies. It's just for those community groups. And we're saying, tell us what you want to do in your park, and they apply. We have, community leaders, small groups that gather together as partners, or small organizations from those neighborhoods.
It's diverse. It's all different kinds of people bringing their thoughts, their ideas, and their compassion to the work that they're doing. So it's beautiful.
While these grants will not be offered next year, Seattle Parks and Recreation plans to revisit some familiar programs like Arts and Parks, Get Moving, Hope for Youth, and Recreation for All. We'll be right back. And that wraps up this episode of CityStream from Bloodworks Northwest. Remember, if you'd like to donate blood, go to the website bloodworksnw.org and schedule an appointment. I'm Dennis Bounds. Thanks for watching.